Starting off, we have the Tissot PRX, the one in the thumbnail. Now, this is specifically the Powermatic 80 variant because of wearability. It just doesn't wear well because of the stiff integrated bracelet, fixed end links, and terrible drape. I mean, the fixed end links mean that this 40mm PRX has a 51.5mm lug-to-lug. That is just too large for your average guy. That would be the equivalent in terms of lug-to-lug and proportioning to a 40.
All right, guys, buckle up because in the next 60 seconds, I'm about to shake a few wrists and a few egos. You've seen the hype, Tissot PRX, this Cartier Santos that we're going to hear about too as well. But today, I am reacting to a watch reviewer who fearlessly is calling out the 5 massively popular watches. And some of the reasons are downright brutal. We're talking about stiff bracelets, fake feeling value, plastic escapements, everything from bad tolerances, and yeah, it gets really spicy. And I'm jumping in my own take as well, so you're getting a double trouble, double down take on these watches. That being said, I'm going to play it through uninterrupted.
The 4mm Submariner. It's just too big for your average bloke. And on top of that, it's just not a particularly comfortable watch, just in general. Second is the bracelet, generally. I mean, a basic low-end butterfly clasp, no micro adjustments, pins, not even screws, and mediocre finishing. It's just not all that. Also, a big issue for me, at least again, personally, is that it's not an original design. The PRX is a Rolex copy. If you didn't know, Rolex made the 17000, which is the Oyster Quartz, a year before the Tissot PRX first came about in 1978. Now, if you think that's too close of a date, the 1530, which used the Oyster Quartz case and everything but an automatic movement, was a few years before that. And then you can even go to the Beta 21 Quartz, which is another Rolex from 1969, which is 9 years before the PRX, with basically the same design. Another issue is the plastic escapement. This is something that people say very often, but it's not actually quite as bad as people sound because it's not just basic plastic. But it is still worse than using normal metal. And I mean, Tissot is owned by Swatch. We all know Tissot is owned by Swatch. That isn't obvious. They also own Etta Movements. The Powermatic 80 is an Etta 2824 clone with more power, reserve, right? And they've specifically put a plastic escapement there so that if it breaks, no one else can replace it because only they manufacture those parts. So literally, it's specifically made so that it's more likely to break and you have to send it to Tissot so that they can make more money. It's just a money-grabbing scheme. And on top of that, just something that you're going to hear me say very often, it's just super common. I find it a bit plain for the price because I've seen grandmas wearing it and I've seen teenage boys wearing it. Literally everyone has a Tissot PRX. It is such a mainstream hype piece that it is just boring.
Now hold up. Before we keep rolling the tape, I did want to say that, I basically have to say that I used to defend it, the Tissot watch and PRX. But that being said, when you look at the bracelet drape and the fixed end links, he's not exaggerating. This thing wears like it's a trap. I'm telling you right now, some of those micro brands he mentioned absolutely eat the PRX alive. So let's continue.
Instead recommend one of these, which range from half to twice the price of an automatic PRX, that being the Maurice Lacroix Icon, the Christopher Ward 12, the Mido Multifort, the Mine Manhattan, the Venezianico Arsenal, the Citizen Toyosa, the Dorento Mondial, the Yema Urban Traveler, the Certina DS7, the Straum John Mayen, or the Nevada Grenchen F77. You can see that there's just a lot of watches which are in that feasibly similar price range, which are infinitely better in every way. Next up is one that's going to surprise people, and that is the Cartier Santos. Now, why would I actually skip this? Because it's such a lovely watch, and in my opinion, one of the better designs in the entire industry. Well, it's just basically one thing: value for money. You are just paying for the brand name here. Way more so than even a brand like Rolex or Omega or Patek Philippe, Vacheron Constantin or Audemars Piguet. You're just paying for the brand name. What I mean by this is that even though the design is the gold standard, you're telling me industry standard finishing and build quality with a mid-range quartz movement for £5,500. That's $7,400 for a watch that is nothing special when it comes to pure quality, finishing, build quality, just nothing special there, industry standard or lower. It's got a terrible butterfly clasp, which doesn't have micro adjustments, and it's just a cheap quartz movement. I mean, it's not a cheap quartz movement, it's a Cartier quartz movement, it's pretty decent, but it's still just a quartz movement for that much money. Now, one thing I will say is that it is...
I personally like the Cartier. I think it's got a nice design, and, you know, quartz movement or not quartz movement, Cartier is known as being a design watch, and as far as that goes, that's what it's fulfilling here.
It's kind of fair in a way because of the design. Because this is definitely the hardest watch I can give recommendations on compared to the watch itself. Because the best thing to get other than a modern Cartier Santos is a vintage Cartier Santos. Of course, there are a few other variations, other things that I think sort of suit that aesthetic but are slightly better value or just different. And that is the Herbal & Cap Camerot, the Mine Manhattan again, the Brumetric, the Baume Mercier Riviera, and the Benjamin James Scarif 4. Next up is Seiko 5, specifically the sports lines. Now the main issue here is the value again, Hardlex crystals, mediocre finishing and build quality, with a yes, robust and reliable movement, but still one that's badly finished and cheap to produce nonetheless, and it's also not regulated to say, and even more than that is the fact that they have just crap bracelets. I'm just being perfectly honest.
I do think those are
the bracelets are
lackluster.
low-end quality, the clasps are just pressed sheet metal, it's just not good generally. Pinhole system, like just the most basic, low-end, easy-to-produce bracelets and clasps. They're not very comfortable, they're not very good. They could just be doing a lot more. Another thing to mention is bad tolerances, because I constantly see gaps in bracelets and cases and etc. I will say, however, they do have a fair value proposition in terms of the range, because they have so many different watches in these lines that there will definitely be a design you specifically love. With that said, I'm going to give you a few examples here which I think are better value or just again a bit different, starting with the Orient Komatsu, which has sapphire crystal, better water resistance and excellent value. Then you have the Citizen ProMaster, the Zelos 300 meter Mako, the Yanghun or San Martin divers, literally any of them. You've got the Venezianico Nereide, the Mine Hudson, Laurier Falcon, pretty much any 300 to 600 micro brand diver beats the Seiko 5 in every single aspect. Design is subjective, but objectively better quality, better specs, better finishing, etc. All for the same ballpark range. Number 4 is one that you could probably see coming if you know much about the watch industry, and that's the Jaeger LeCoultre Reverso. Now, why would I skip this? Well, first of all, brick-like wear. The reversing cradle adds height, and sleeves fight it. The lugs are huge and thick, and overall it just doesn't look good or clean on any wrist in my opinion. The Watches and Wonders 2025 came out with a few more of them. I must say, those are definitely better. But when we're talking about them, generally you're going to be talking about the lower end, more affordable ranges, and those models are just not very wearable, even for larger wrists. Just because of the shape of them and everything, you have a thin, thick, it just doesn't look good, man. The biggest issue here, though, is value yet again, but in a different way this time, because that is their price hikes and increases. Because Jaeger LeCoultre is just doing it way more than other brands. Every year, the Reverso stays the same quality at the attainable models, and yet gets more and more expensive. For example, in the last 10 years, depending on the model, the Reverso has gone up 30 to 50%. Compare that to a brand which is much more mainstream, like the Submariner, which in the last 10 years is up 27%. So you're telling me the Submariner, which comes with a bracelet, which has a better movement, better finishing, better build quality, just everything is better on it, costs less and is increasing at a slower rate than something which is on leather that just has one little gimmick. Also, for those that say that the gimmick is what makes it really fun and really cool and etc., it wasn't even the first to do it. The Jaeger LeCoultre Reverso came out in 1931, but before that, Universal Genève made the Le Cabriolet. which the Reverso then pretty much blatantly copied, but changed it slightly. I will say though, it's still a cool gimmick and everything, which makes it kinda hard because if you want an alternative, you want a watch which you can flip, you still want that gimmick. So I can't get too many picks here, but there are a few. Starting with the Vario Reversa, the Cartier Basculante, which by the way is thinner, more attractive and much better value in my opinion, the Tag Heuer Monaco 69, the Chrono Swiss Cabrio, the Omega Equinox Reversible, and the Hamilton Jazzmaster Phase 2 Face I. Last but not least is one you're probably not expecting because it's so cheap, and that is actually the Casio F91W. This is basically because the watch is sold through nostalgia and by the fact that lots of famous people and such have worn it, right? That's basically what sells it, because Casio offer pretty much the exact same design, but better in every way, in the same price ranges these days. It's a 20-year-old watch. It is a great icon, it has been worn by lots of awesome people, and it is super cheap. But you don't get great battery life, you don't get many complications, if you could call them that, and you can't read it in the dark with its just abhorrent backlight. Now, the only things I would recommend over this, because it's a very particular style, is other Casios, pretty much. Because again, F91W, it's a 20-year-old watch. They've obviously made a few that improve upon it. So, we have the F105W-1A, the W59, the W86, the W202, the W217H, and then for fun, the CA53W-1ER, which is the calculator watch, or if you can afford to go a little bit more, the DW5600 is perfect. It's basically the same, a little bit more expensive, but like 50 times more durable. All of these are just better, do the same thing, look the same, from the same brand, and cost around the same. But remember, this is my wrist, my taste, and if you own and love any of these, awesome. Watch collect.
And there you have it, guys. 5 watches that everyone flexes, but honestly, most of us should probably skip. And a whole lineup of smarter, cooler, better looking alternative watches as well. And that being said, whether you agree, disagree, or you're ready to fight me in the comments, bring it. That's what makes this hobby fun. And if you dug the breakdown, hit like, drop your hottest take below, and subscribe because we're diving deeper into watch value, design, and everything that the big brands hope that you never question. And that being said, until next time, stay sharp, stay curious, and remember, a watch should elevate your wrist, not your ego.